Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Georgia's Live podcast. I am your host, Travis Smith. You can go online to georgiaslive.com to see what shows are coming up to Georgia's Majestic Lounge here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. You can see the full calendar, get tickets, and all of that jazz. Be sure to go to Instagram at Georgia's Majestic Lounge and go to Twitter at Georgia's Majestic, and be sure to rate and subscribe and review the podcast. It helps us out a lot, moves us up in the iTunes ranks and whatnot, and allows more people to be able to hear some of these cool interviews I've been able to do with folks like Victor Wooten and Marty Stewart and the Motet. If you guys haven't listened to those interviews, they're all up online, and go give them a listen. Today we have another great interview with some friends of mine. We have Stan and Brad from the band Dial Up, a 90s tribute band that's been killing it here in Northwest Arkansas for a little over a year now. And they are coming on the podcast today to talk about their band and the shows that they got coming up and some stuff like that. So, yeah, super happy to have them on. Everybody go check out georgiaslive.com. Let's take you to that interview with Brad and Stan from Dial Up. All right, I am here with Stan and Brad from Dial Up. How are you guys doing?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here, man.
Absolutely. Wanted to have you guys on, talk about your band and some shows that you guys got coming up in the near future. You got some sweet ones, including this weekend here at Georgia's.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's going to be a big party, as usual.
So kind of tell the folks what you guys do in the band, and then maybe explain kind of what Dial Up's all about.
Sure. So this is Brad. I play bass for the band and sing backup vocals.
I'm Stan. I play piano and guitar, a little bit of backup vocals as well, and we both dance.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so so that's true. So Dial Up is, we're a 90s tribute band. So everything that we play, without exception, is from the 90s. It pains us greatly sometimes to figure out that a song is from 2000 or 89 and we can't play it. Like Ice Ice Baby, for instance.
Eminem.
We get always requests for that, and we're like, oh, sorry, that was released in 89. We cannot play it.
Yep.
Really?
So, yeah.
There was one Eminem song I wanted to do that was like a month or two, 2000. So
Oh, wow.
just missed the cutoff.
Yeah.
What do you hit in the Eminem in the 90s? Like Slim Shady?
I think it was one of the ones off.
Slim Shady is
Dr.
90s.
Dre?
Yeah.
90s?
Yeah.
It
Man,
was-
that's like an hour right there talking about what you thought was in the 90s that really isn't.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I know.
thought Vanilla Ice was for sure in the 90s.
I know. It's a new level of pain. So we can do like the Ninja Turtles, Go Ninja, Go Ninja,
yeah,
Go.
with the
Like
Ninja rap.
we throw Ninja Rap. We throw in a little Ninja Rap on the bridge of like Jump Around sometimes
nice.
by House of Pain. It's pretty fun. So
I used to, I was obsessed with Ninja Turtles when I was growing up. My whole room was green. Had wallpaper on green walls for like for
Yes.
everything and stuff. And then that Ninja Rap, like Green Machine, Gonna Rock the Town without PNC. And you ever seen a turtle get down or whatever? Dude, I watch Ninja Turtle movies like crazy.
Nice.
So,
My obsession was Power Rangers.
oh yeah.
And you're Batman, right?
no, that just happens to be the name of my dog because
Okay.
I think it's funny.
But it's perfect, though, because we actually dressed
Spider-Man.
up. We dressed up as Power Rangers for one show.
yeah, for a
So
Halloween show. Yeah.
we've had fun with that, for sure.
So Brad, this is kind of your creation, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I can't really take credit for
No,
it. It's
take
kind of my
credit, but-
idea.
Yeah.
To start it, but yeah.
When did y'all start?
Almost 2 years ago to the date, actually. Today it was September, almost 2 years ago. So, yeah, we started. We saw a show, a 90s show, and I had so much fun. And I was like, wow, no one's doing this in Fayetteville. Like, I think this would be really fun. And so I talked to the other guys in the band and was like, hey, like, I think this would be really fun. Let's start a 90s band. And they're like, okay. So we did it, and yeah.
Is there a particular genre that you guys try to stick to in the 90s?
No,
Or do
we
you try and jump?
No, I'd say we try to cover pretty much everything. What other genres do we play? Alternative, rock, hip hop, R&B,
A little bit of country.
a little bit of country, boy band, girl band. I think that's
I like the way people dress in 90s garb
yeah.
for your shows.
So what's funny is like 90s fashion is starting to like come like what'd you say like in vogue again. Like it's starting to get popular. So
No
like
pun intended.
Yeah. So we've found that we have to like when we dress it because we dress up every show 90s. So we have to like make our what we wear like caricature 90s so that people know that we're like not being serious.
right.
Oh, yeah.
So, otherwise, people would be like, "Well, that's just
you
they're
can't just,
dressed
like-
fashionably."
Yeah, you can't just throw in a fanny pack and call it a day. You gotta
right.
throw in a full windsuit.
I know. Yeah,
Which-
Exactly.
I see, that's what you wear a lot.
I have this neon blue LA gear, which technically is from late 80s, but it kind of carries over into the 90s. But
How do y'all
it looks
find
pretty
all that
ridiculous.
Find it online
so it's
or
kind of
something?
it's been like a slow acquisition. It's pretty tough to find good like vintage '90s stuff at like the thrift stores around here. So a lot of it is like eBay or just
For like our age group, though, it's got to be the most fun band to be in because that's like literally the stuff we grew up on.
Yeah, no, I remember specifically, so like Closing Time by Semisonic. I remember like when we started playing this again, I was like, I can remember sitting in the back of my mom's minivan, literally fantasizing about playing this song in front of people one day, just because like it's so cool and I liked music. I didn't even play an instrument at that time.
Yeah, dude.
But I was like, man, that'd be so cool. And then now I'm 32 and playing these songs that I grew up loving on stage. And it's just so fun.
I think that there's something, there's a certain age when you acquire your favorite bands. And I think that hot spot between age 14 and like 18, for us, my age group, we were burning CDs and making like mixtapes on CDs. We had a dude that had a Napster. You give him like $15 and then he had dial up. So he had a few, no pun intended.
Yeah.
He had a few computers set up, and you'd tell him what you wanted, what songs you wanted, and he'd go and like run it through the night and bring your CD back the next day. And that was like,
it took all night to download a song.
And that was the first time that you could get different songs from different artists onto something and then get it the next day really quite like that. And I think that streaming and then just all these one-hit wonders that were hitting with like mega hits at the time with like really good pop songs. I think that like is the nostalgic part, and everybody remembers like their high school, kind of junior high, the coming of age bands that they listen to type stuff. And I play in a Sublime tribute that's had a lot of hits during the 90s, and that age group goes hard.
Yeah, we haven't played any Sublime yet. We need to do a show together.
Big mistake.
I know.
They're awesome.
Dude,
I know.
it's a,
Did you see them when they were at the amp?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
it
seen
was
them
awesome.
twice. Yeah, they for a band that some people would try to hate on Sublime, trying to say it's like a bro band I've seen in sometimes and stuff. They get weird.
Bro
like
band?
slides.
They're like
yeah,
stoner band maybe, but
that's what I think. But then, we're playing at Birds Fest this weekend, so we're playing at like a jam festival, and it's definitely not a jam thing.
Yeah.
It's a weird band that fits in with hip hop, dub and reggae and all kinds of stuff. So, but that's, to me, that's like kind of what the 90s was. The hip hop was huge, the rock, every genre kind of blossomed at that time. So it's like a good time to find songs to play from. I bet there's so many to choose from. Like if you look at 2000s, between 2000 and 2010, there's a lot of songs, but they're not like mega smash hits.
yeah. So we were talking with
the 90s
Arlie.
were.
So Arlie's the main sound tech here at Georgia. So we were talking with him, and he was like, I don't think that you could, and this is debatable, of course, but he's like, I don't think that you could do what you guys do later than 90s music, because after the 90s, like the 90s was the last decade that everyone listened to the same thing. It's like after that, it started, the music industry started splintering so much and getting so wide that there's a lot of great, awesome music, but it's not, everyone doesn't know it. Like the 90s is like the last big decade that everyone listened to the same thing pretty much.
And there is a style that's like, how we're talking about the closing. I think there's a super familiar, recognizable, that's 90s attire, that's 80s attire.
Yeah.
Like what is 2000s?
Right.
Like Jinko?
Exactly.
No, that's 90s.
Yeah.
Jinko's 90s mainly.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I don't even know what 2000s would be.
Yeah, I have to think about it. So, but even like
not enough to have a bunch of people dress up like they're from the 2000s
Right.
and go to a show, You
could do it. I mean, there's a lot of. It's broken our hearts so many times to find some songs that we love. We're like 2000, 2001, 2002. So there's a bunch of gold stuff like early 2000s for sure, but from like it just doesn't have the same type of cohesive package, I feel like, that like the 90s stuff does.
I like the way you guys tie in your shows also with a iconic 90s character on each one of your shows. You go with a different one. Right now you're on AC Slater, is that right?
Yeah, with Slater.
So
yeah.
I don't think we've ever had our own picture for a show promotion, have we?
No,
on a poster?
I don't think so. No. So that's kind of like it's been kind of like an important thing to us as like, especially from like a promotion standpoint, or really anything that we do. Like it's not about like us in the band. Like we don't care. Like I just sent you a picture for like some promo pic, and like our heads are literally cut off of it. Like that doesn't matter at all. What matters is like because that just shows like our shoes, our 90s shoes, and like our clothes and stuff like that. And that's to build that experience for the audience, and that's what's important. It's not like we don't care. Like we're not trying to like get recognized like in public for get all famous for being in dial-up. Well, like we don't care about that.
I think it's something to be said, and it should shine a light on the fact though that you actually spent time to think about what your target audience is. How can we reach our target audience?
Yeah.
What steps do we need to physically put into action to be able to reach them? And then actually following through with said physical action, say, I do marketing here at George's, so I'll get an email from a band. Let's say let's start with like a local band that nobody knows yet because they're just kind of first couple shows. And they're kind of like, well, what? And they'll ask me like, what do I do to get people out to the shows? And I kind of have to think back to the time before I knew anybody in town and just starting cold, nothing whatsoever. But it's like building like your package. Like if you go, you go type in dial up online, you're going to see images, you're going to see a website, you're going to see where the shows are. Like you have your stuff readily available for people to check out. And I think that's killer, and it goes across to any genre or any type of band of what they're doing is taking the time to get their product together before they go full steam ahead on it. Some people just get out and throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and they're like, cool, color blue, let's wear color blue and let's do that. But whenever you guys show up and you have like your package and everything's together, it's a 90s party, it's going to be fun. I think that's super cool that you guys can be able to portray that before the show even starts with your imagery and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a thing. Like I feel like every band, whether you're doing your own like original music or you're in like a cover band, you have to have a concept of this is what we do, and you need to keep that tight. So like there's been a lot of temptation, I'd say, even from us to go outside of 90s, because we have people like, oh, I'm going to hire you for a wedding, but we need to play some 70s stuff or two. And we just say, no, like we don't do that. There's another band that I've referred you guys. Yeah. We can bring them on to do something like that. We can play house music, but we only do 90s. And we feel like that caused a lot of pain, I think, initially. It's like, especially like when, we weren't very well known or whatever, to like turn down gigs even sometimes because we wouldn't do that. But in the long run, it's stuck to that. Just having that really tight concept and sticking to it and having faith, I think, is really important, regardless of what kind of band you are.
Faith in your product.
Yeah.
Is pretty cool. Stan, you've been enjoying the band, bud?
Yeah, and it's funny you say about having faith, because like honestly, I was kind of skeptical at first. I really didn't know if something like that would catch on, but Brad convinced all of us. It was your idea, and because I've been in other bands and I really like doing original music, but I was kind of like being in a cover band. I don't know if that's for me. And then sure enough, we just went all in with it.
Let's be honest, it's pretty lame.
Jim gets so mad at me all the time with the juice because I'm always like, oh, we're just in a cheesy cover band.
Yeah.
But
I tell people all the time,
we spend time on it. Yeah, but like I think you're selling the experience though, and the experience is fun,
right?
So it should be fun,
because cover bands are really a dime a dozen. There's so many around here, but we try to do something different, and that's kind of what Brad sold us on, is that this is a completely different package.
I know for me, I was thinking about this yesterday, like it's an approach. Like I don't feel like whenever you work that marketing muscle to where I feel like when you start with your package and you're like, this is what we're going to be and this is what we're doing. I think when you get into good practice of knowing when you start a new project, you're going to need an Instagram, a Facebook page, a Twitter tied to your Instagram, or not really a Twitter, or whatever you want to do, Facebook or electronic press kit website, however hard you're trying to go. Once you get used to that, where you're like, well, I started a new band, so I need to get all these things, get all my ducks in a row, because this is what I have to have a band that plays shows out. I think once you work that muscle, then you're able to achieve the results that you're trying to get to a little bit faster without even really realizing you're doing anything. Every post matters. Every 100 people seeing something. If it's 100 people that live in your town, that's 100 more than what saw it before. It's more than what flyers would see back on the day, hanging a flyer on a pole. People's got to walk by it. That's more of a physical activity to see it. So I'll start thinking about things like that. And if it's in a situation where you can put all this stuff out there and have it pumping out ready to go, it just makes it so much easier. More people roll out to shows and stuff. It's something where you don't realize it until you're doing it, until after it's happened. But I think that, like you're saying with cover bands, I hear a lot of some people they'll rip on me because I play in cover bands, and it's like, it's all music first off to me, whether you wrote it or somebody else wrote it.
Right.
I play drums. I didn't write any of it. It's all cover music to me. So it's like, that's kind of like my kind of cop out on it. But to me, I think a lot of that talk is ridiculous. But if you're selling a good time and that's what you guys are doing, what's better than that? That's kind of like the point of music anyways, to make people feel good or feel bad if that's what you're trying to do.
I mean, it's literally that's our number one focus when we do anything, is how can we, and we'll think back at shows and we think, oh, what could we do better? It's usually never what notes could we hit better, or like, obviously, like sometimes it's has to do with notes, or like how can we promote it different. It's the number one singular goal is, what can we do to make this experience for the crowd better, to transport them to a place like above the mundane daily activities in their life, that they know when they come to a dial-up show, like, it's going to be different. I can relax and I can cut loose and have fun, and then I can go back to that normal daily life stuff like at a different time. But so it's all about always
it's an escape.
Obsessed about trying to create that escape. Yeah.
Brian said Brian, our owner, we had an employee meeting where everybody was here the other day, and we were talking about how as a venue, how we want people to feel when they come in, how they leave, and having a good time, and how music offers an escape for people. And, running a venue, you have a house where people are coming to get away from their jobs or the fact that they're broke or whatever, fight with a girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatevs. And they're coming in to like escape from all that. And it's cool that you guys have that approach to where you're setting the scene for that. When I talked with Harold and the Steve Kimmick podcast, it's one thing we talked about is like a good night, like the atmosphere has to be set. The lights have to be perfect. The venue's got to fit. The band's got to fit the venue and the crowd and stuff like that. And paying attention to how people feel when they're at the show is so important. I think that with you guys having nothing, like I see my friends showing up in like 90s attire and I'm like, hey, cool, they're going to see Dial-Up. They're going, that they're going to have a good time. Yeah. And I think for cover, if you're doing covers, you're selling that experience. So,
and I think that's been that's an important thing too. I think especially for another thing that we really focused on is like from the start, it's again creating that experience. So like some practical things, especially for bands like looking to start up. Like I have a history like in live sound audio. So again, we were like obsessive from the start about making, like we went thousands of dollars in debt to like get like a good PA right from the start and get good gear right from the start, because and that was part of my influence, and that is like, listen, you can be the best band in the world, but if your sound is bad, people are going to think you're a bad band. And so we got so many accolades. Like we played at JJ's a lot, like really early on, and people thought that we were just the hottest thing since sliced milk. That's not a phrase.
You got to freeze it and cut it with a hot knife before it melts.
I'm gonna knock my earphones out. Okay, there we go. Cool. But yeah, and that's strictly because it's like, like I can hear the vocals well, and I can hear the kick drum. And so I really attribute that a lot to while we were learning and still getting good at the songs. It's like, we didn't have that all the way together yet right at the start, but it did sound good. And so I feel like that goes really a lot further than a lot of bands, because you can be a dope band, but if you show up at a venue with a ratty sound system and people are hearing feedback squeal and stuff, they're going to blame it on the band. They're not going to blame it on the sound system or anything. This band is garbage.
The band picked the sound guy, or whatever they're going to say. So let me pick your brain. Are you always thinking like that? Or are you always thinking, okay, I've got this working over here. This is working at the pace it needs to work at. In this, for instance, the band getting better, which only happens through playing together. But over here, you're working on the sound. Are you kind of always working on little things like that to tweak everything in different spots at all times?
Yeah, all like obsessively, to the detriment of like my poor girlfriend. She's like, I literally can't even, like, you're a different person when you come up to get to a big show.
Your girlfriend and my wife were talking about the same thing at the festival.
She said she was complaining to Molly. She's like, I need to go on a vacation leading up to the next big dial-up show. 'Cause Brad is literally intolerable during that time. Because it's like, I think about everything. Like how can it be better? How can we get more people through the door? How can we, like, I just was like, you guys this week, I was like, hey, I know this is a small thing, but like the promo picture isn't good. Can we change it to these so that it matches all the posters we printed off and went in there? Then we have consistent branding. So it's just like stuff like that across the board. Like, so, and I feel like, so I kind of act like as the managerial role.
And the reason I'm recapping what you're saying is because I think a lot of bands need to hear this.
Yeah.
So you're constantly watching how the venue is promoting you, making sure that they're promoting the way that you guys have aligned your branding. And I think that is, and there's nothing wrong with, you could send an email every day changing it if that's what you're doing, and that's completely fine for bands to do that. And that's kind of what you have to do. Some people, I'll get, say like a Randy Rogers band will send something and they don't want you to use anything from the past because they might have an old band member or something like that.
Right.
So we see it every day. That's a good school of thinking, though. It's kind of, are you a multitasker?
Me?
There's literally been, like, during a show, we'll be playing a song and he'll pull out his like phone to like change the sound during the song. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing that, yeah, you can even get away with that.
Yeah, it's having that mindset of always think of it as kicking everything back into the curbs.
Yeah.
As if things get out of line. It's a good...
Well, I think you have to have that mindset in anything, in a band, in business, anything. You have to constantly... First of all, there's no room for ego, I feel like, really, like in music, and which is funny because it's in music a ton. But even in business, because you have to be able to accept, like, if you're doing something wrong, you have to be able to remove yourself out of that and not like hurt your own ego or your own feelings. Be like, yeah, I did this wrong. Like, we need to change. Because if you can't remove yourself from it, then making changes for the betterment of like the business or the band are really going to be difficult for you. So, and for everyone. So we're constantly like always reevaluating. Like last night we were just practicing and there's a guitar part and like we didn't feel like Daniel was getting it really right, and we're like, yeah, it's just not there. And he's like, okay, well, Stan, you can take it. Like, no big deal. Like, ultimately, what's most important is not, in the original band, like, well, the lead singer plays this part. Well, if it's not there, then let's give it, and it's not because the sole focus, it's not about you. It's about, again, creating the product, and
just another means to an end, really.
Yeah.
So what shows do you guys got coming up? You've got George's this weekend on the 14th.
We got one in Fort Smith not too long after that, right?
Yeah, so our run is George's this weekend, Stubbs in Little Rock, or Sticky Fingers, not Stubbs. Yeah, Stickies in Little Rock the following week.
Have you guys played there yet?
Yeah, we've played there twice before.
You like Little Rock?
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's kind of interesting for us because, we started in Northwest Arkansas, so we decided kind of a strategy that we're taking on now is we're going to start playing regionally a little bit to hopefully develop those other markets more. Then we don't really have to necessarily, we can play less ideally and still like do well. So that's kind of our strategy now. And that's been interesting for us. It's like, oh, we're literally starting over again.
Sucks, doesn't it? We went down and played in Little Rock. There's like 5 people there. I ain't afraid to say it, man. I haven't had many good shows in Little Rock. It's hard to bust into a new market.
Yeah. So we're having really good traction on social media now. For every big show that we're doing, we do ad buys too. And so I started thinking about, it's not really, so the last show didn't go well down there in Little Rock for one reason or another. But so this one, went back to the drawing board. Okay, what can we do differently? And what I realized was, okay, people don't know us down there. So in our event description and our marketing ad, everything, we need to tell people exactly what we do because no one knows
how you do it.
Yeah. So we're like 90s, come see Arkansas's premier 90s band. We play hits from and listed out a few different people. And again, we know for a fact from our feedback analytics we get from our Facebook ads that our main demographic is females 25 to 34. So we in that list of bands that I mentioned that we play, we did the ones that the girls really love, because if you can get the girls to the show, then the guys are going to come. The guys are going to buy the drinks for the girls, and then everyone's happy. So it's looking back and reevaluating, and talk to the venue. I remember talking with Brian early on, and he was like, yeah, we were looking at the ages on the credit card receipts that you had, and to see your demographic, because it's funny, we thought, Stan mentioned this I think earlier before, he's like, we thought that we were going to be like a college party band when we first started it. We're like, yeah, we're going to play frat gigs, and like that's going to be it, and that turned out not to be it at all. Like
they want to hear like Dixieland Delight by Alabama.
Yeah,
that's like a hit.
So
you can't make that up.
So this is a funny story. So we were playing so you guys set us up, or Georgia set us up to do this frat gig out in a field. Where was that?
Hogridge Hollow.
Hogridge, yeah. So we're out in a field. It was like sleeting or rainy, super muddy. We're like, oh, this sucks, but that's all right. It'll be a good show. So there's like 3 fraternities of like joined forces in this fraternity army out there. And we start playing, and there's like a big bonfire, and there's just people spread out kind of all over the field. We're playing. We end up getting maybe like 50 people up at the stage. They're really into it, having a good time, but like not that many. So we get done playing. And then there's a DJ, DJ Dick. I don't know if you know him. Shout out DJ Dick. I don't know him personally, but he, as soon as he started, the whole like field swarmed and crushed the stage. And then at that, we just kind of looked at each other. We're like, okay, this isn't our seed.
Yeah, you can't do it. Sometimes you just can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Well, okay, we're not a college band. We like figured it out right then. We're like, okay.
It's hard to be a college band that the kids want to latch on to. I know it sounds like we're like old, but it's not the case. But like,
yeah,
just there's too much going on.
Yeah.
Well, because like my friends in Goose, those guys are doing awesome, and they've started in college. So we kind of thought, these guys figured it out. They started playing fraternity gigs, and
it helps if you're in those like fraternities. Every once in a while, there'll be a band that's like, "Why do you guys pull like 300 people here?" They're like, "Oh, it's all my fraternity friends." I'm like, "Oh man, what a good head start you have."
Yeah. So we had to go a totally different route then, and.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that goes back to like you got to take yourself out of it. Like you got to be willing to accept change and like go with the flow. Like, okay, yeah, we don't like fraternity people don't really like our music or don't really care that much. That's okay. Like who does?
You did the market research, found out what you do, and then you capitalize and target that.
Yeah. So
you got Little Rock. What's after that?
Then we're in Fort Smith at the Majestic, and then I think. These are just like public gigs too. We do a lot of private events, but
nice. Where can people go online to find you if they want to hire you?
Our Facebook is the biggest way that people do, or you can DM us on Instagram. So we actually don't have a website. So on your thread, I was like totally kidding, and then you were being all nice and helpful and like telling me real band websites that I get.
And then whenever you did Angel Fire, I was like, oh, no, you're talking about like old school.
I felt
stuff.
bad. I was like, should I tell him I'm kidding? And then I was like, I'm just gonna keep going deeper with this, and then see.
No, that's my sense of humor. So like, you nailed it. Yeah. Like I never get to talk about XPage or GeoCities that often anymore. Yeah. Which I think did GeoCities become Google? I think Google might have owned GeoCities.
Oh, I don't know.
But did you do website stuff back in the day?
No, I just knew kind of that. Like from being a kid, I just remember like Angel Fire sites and like stuff like that. But so the joke was like Travis was being helpful, like, or actually you're kind of getting onto bands like, hey, you need to have a website. And I posted something like, hey, we actually, what if you're a 90s band, you don't really know how this internet thing works? Like, can I use my AOL login like to do that or what? And he was so helpful. It was like, no, you should try these websites. Like they're really good for bands. And so it's funny.
Well, I figured, I was like, I know Brad knows how. I'm sure he could like pump out a website every hour if he wanted to. He's a pretty smart guy. That post was basically, I was getting emails from people that were sending, hey, this is Steve, I need a show. I've been playing around here forever type emails. and I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And they don't really even know me. They just know I'm a dude that can help them get a show. And what I was saying is, you don't have to have those things, but just have information on your band to where if I were to book it, here at George's, I'll do the TV screens and I'll do the social media, and we do flyers and all that stuff. I need like some stuff to work with, or if somebody goes, who's in so-and-so band, I would like to be able to tell them, since we're taking the risk of having them come in and staffing it up for the band and stuff like that. And some bands are just sending me stuff, and then whenever I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to need more information, they'll send me like a link to like their Facebook page, like a personal page. Be like, I've got 4,000 followers. And I'm like, no, those are 4,000 friends.
Yeah.
And I can't, with the way Facebook works, I can't even create an event to add you.
Right.
And I'd had 3 different situations that day where somebody was taking it personal that I wasn't able to work with them. One was asking for a date that just wasn't available. And so I take the risk on making that public post to be like, is this is just what you do. This is what everybody that the clubs are talking, every club you play at that you're sending this to, this is a conversation they have. If they're on top of their stuff, they're sitting probably with a team of people going, can you believe this email I got that doesn't have this? I like to try and send it back and be like, here's why you're not getting the shows, and here's where you can go do it. Now I've sent you something to where now I showed you where to go to get your email list, and I'll put like blog posts and for bands to go do it. And then I'm seeing now, I know you know the information, you like that particular post. Are you going to come back in a month with a website or electronic press kit? I had 5 people rather reach out to me or send me a brand new website. They're like, I didn't have this, and this, and here's why I created it. Then I feel like they only did it because I said that. And then I'm like, no, I'm not saying that, like, I'm not going to book you unless you have this. I'm just saying it helps you to have these things.
Yeah, like you have to book me now. I just signed up for Squarespace, bitch.
That's basically what some people will do. And I'm like, well, it's like, you still got to put, like, content on it. You can't just go create the page. But it's funny that you posted that, because those posts could go so bad so fast.
Yeah.
Of people being like, huh, funny you say that. I sent you an email 2016 that you never responded to. Way to go. And I'm just like, I don't even remember that year. So it's a ballsy move on my behalf, but it always works out for the better. At least 5 or 6 people probably get a new page. But then, like, you posting like the goofy stuff on there, I'm like, that's what makes it for me, is like makes it lighthearted. And then somebody, if they start talking trash, then you can rope them in and be like, well, have you thought about starting a GeoCities page? Yeah.
So we actually don't have a website, but there's only one reason for that. Like, I think it would generally be helpful, but because the only way I'm going to do a website is if I can figure out a way, and I can't do this. I don't have the web development skills. So if you are, reach out to me. I want to make it look like just the most awful, terrible 90s website. like ugly with like the old like glitter gifs, and stuff, like the awful gray.
Man, that would actually be hard to do.
Boxes, I know. It'd be hard. There's no pre-built tools for it at all. It'd have to be all custom.
I would love that site with all my heart.
I know.
Like right when I started geeking out on websites is around that time.
Yeah. So reach out to Dial Up if you can build that site for us. Well, for show tickets.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us,
man.
So everybody go check out the shows coming up, especially this weekend at George's. And what time does that show kick off?
I think doors are at 7. We start at 10.
Sweet. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you, Stan and Brad from Dial Up. You guys can go online to georgeslive.com to see what shows are coming up, as well as purchase tickets. Be sure to go online to Instagram, to George's Majestic Lounge, and to Twitter at George's Majestic. And be sure to rate and subscribe and review the podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.